So now that it's been a hot minute since GxK came out on home media, especially digital release where it's been out for nearly a month now, I figured I'd talk about something that's been bugging me since I first saw the film back in March. That being Godzilla himself in the film. Now, this isn't anything to do with the fact that Godzilla is only in the film for about 8 minutes. Sure, I would have liked him to be in the film a lot longer, considering that Alan Wingard did promote the film as a buddy cop movie. It really doesn't feel like that, especially since Godzilla and Kong don't really meet until the start of the third act. But Godzilla's presence in the film is quite strong despite the fact that he's in it for not that long. Anytime we see him in the film, he's always doing something, whether that be attacking France or killing Tiamat and Scylla. He's always active in the story despite the fact that he isn't in it too much, which is always nice to see. I'd rather take a proactive Godzilla as opposed to a Godzilla who doesn't really do much. My big issue comes from his evolved form. Now, I don't have any issues with the design itself. Sure, in my opinion, it's a bit of a downgrade from his 2019 Godzilla self. That is my personal favourite design for the character, so a bit of bias is showing here. My issue comes from the fact that, story-wise, it's not really necessary. So let's talk about that. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about today's sponsor, which is nobody. I'm just messing with you. So let's get into the real video. In the lead up to GxK, Alan Wingard was quite vocal at the fact that for Godzilla vs Kong, he didn't really feel like its director. He felt more like a visitor director, someone who led the ship to where Legendary wanted it to go. He felt like he didn't really get to indulge in his own personal interest with the characters. Sure, he was able to implement his own style with how the film was done, but it didn't feel like his movie in his opinion. So with this movie, he wanted to kind of take control right from the start, which is something I fully support. I'd rather a director have control over their projects rather than it being a middle ground between the studio and director. Although for GxK he did express some interest in redesigning Godzilla, he wanted to make his head a bit bigger and his spikes a bit spikier. However, as he felt like that as he was directing the Versus movie of the MonsterVerse, it was his responsibility to keep the characters true to what they were in previous films so that it wouldn't feel like a completely different version of the character. So Alan Wingard's motivation to change Godzilla's design in the New Empire was the fact that he wanted his version of Godzilla. He wanted a version that he could call his own so that he felt like he put his personal stamp on the character. Which I kind of buy, honestly. I like that. I like the fact that the director wants to have their version of Godzilla that stands shoulder to shoulder with all the other incarnations of the character. But I wanted to talk about the design itself for a bit because I actually think it's really smart in terms of like its in-universe reasoning why Godzilla has changed his body to be the way it is. He's made himself even a tiny bit taller so that he can still compete with taller titans. His legs are a lot more proportional and longer, which allow him to run a bit better because he's always had this hunchback way of running, so now he's able to run a bit more upright and faster. And his arms are a lot longer. I personally think it's the fact that in GxK, Mechagodzilla had longer arms to compete with Godzilla, so I personally think Godzilla took that element of Mechagodzilla to implement into himself so that he's a better fighter. He saw that having longer arms gives him a lot more reach in a battle. But that's just my own headcanon. It's not actual canon, it's just something that I interpreted when I first saw the design. Now, let's get into the meat of the video, why I don't think this was a good choice for the story of the movie. Simply put, we don't see Godzilla Evolved do anything that we haven't seen the character do previously in the MonsterVerse. I mean, yeah, sure, we see him climb that mountain in Gibraltar. And I know someone's going to bring it up. No, the anti-gravity battle doesn't count. We've seen him fight in environments which don't really have much gravity. I know fighting in water and fighting in a zero gravity environment are completely different, and I have my own grievances with people saying it's just like fighting in water. It's not, mainly because of the fact that with zero gravity there's no resistance against the body, whilst in water there's plenty of resistance, making for slower movement. We've seen this Godzilla fight in environments where he doesn't have any ground to support him, so that's not anything new. And despite the fact that this design looks far more agile than his more clunky appearance when he was pre-evolved, we don't really get a sense of that. In fact, he moves a bit slower. We see in 2019 and 2021 his ability to move a lot quicker, especially when he's going all crocodile mode against Kong. I personally think it would have been much better if we saw Evolved Godzilla do the whole crocodile thing, to really display his new agility. It's something that doesn't really come across in the new Empire too well, that he's faster. Heck, maybe he's not even that much faster, despite the fact that his legs would make him a lot faster as a runner. Now, I know a lot of people are going to bring up the fact that he's technically hotter in this incarnation.
What do you mean by that?
Anyway, yes, I know that pink is a hotter colour of radiation than his old blue, but that's not displayed in the film in the slightest. We don't see his new pink atomic breath do anything we haven't seen his atomic breath do previously. Sure, we see him break free of Shimo's ice in their battles, but we don't really get a sense that that's something he couldn't have done before. I personally think it would have been much better if during the film he fought Shimo in his pre-evolved state, got his ass kicked hard, and then had to evolve in order to fight Shimo. And I don't want to hear the fact that, oh, technically he's more powerful in this state because the novelization says that Monarch hasn't seen him this powerful before. When did the novelizations become ways to fact check the films? If it's not displayed in the film, it didn't happen. Stop using expanded media to explain things in the films. Now, a way to get this across is the fact that if he is indeed more powerful in his evolved state than even his fire state, why doesn't he use his nuclear pulse in the evolved state? I personally think it would have been much better if this new evolved Godzilla had more bells and whistles. Heck, maybe give him his nuclear pulse back as a standard ability that comes baked in with this new evolved state. Simply put, we don't see evolved Godzilla do anything he hasn't done before in the Monsterverse. It's not a downgrade in terms of power level, he's about the same, it looks like. I know that some parts of the film said, oh, he's 20 times more powerful with his energy yield, but that doesn't come across in the film in the slightest, so does that really matter? And this isn't even an issue with all of the film. Kong gets the Beast Club in the film, and despite my grievances with the fact I think the Beast Club is a bit dumb, it does everything that Evolved Godzilla should have done. So let's just talk about that to see what Evolved Godzilla could have done better. It's displayed multiple times in the film that the Beast Glove gives Kong much more armor. We see it when Godzilla tries to bite his arm in Egypt, when Shimo shoots him with her ice beam, which previously gave his arm frostbite, and when Scar King wraps his whiplash around Kong's arm, it does nothing against Kong. Heck, it gives Kong the advantage, being able to put in Scar King closer for a punch. So it's a definite upgrade for Kong. Furthermore, we see that it gives his punches a more electrical kick, which we don't really see much in the fight itself, granted, but we see it knock out a tooth of Scar King, so we definitely know it's a boost to his overall strength. Additionally, he's able to crumble a building with one mighty punch, so again, that's a display of his increased strength. Plus, it's also somewhat thematic. It ties Kong closer with humanity and shows his symbiotic relationship with them. I know not everything has to be a metaphor or has to have a reason for like deeper character reasons, but that's one advantage that the Beast Glove has over Evolved Godzilla. What does Evolved Godzilla bring to the table thematically wise? That he's constantly willing to change and evolve and become better than he was? It's not something that really comes across in the film too much. And the real nail in the coffin for Evolved Godzilla is the fact that its designer, Jared Kozlowski, sorry if I butcher your name sir, said that this design is temporary, it's a temporary evolution and he'll go back to a more middle ground in the future. So this design is irrelevant for its future because potentially he'll change back to a more traditional design, so what was the point? Now, I know this video has been me dogging on Evolved Godzilla quite a bit, and it's not the fact that I don't like the design itself. Like I said earlier, I love the design. It's not an improvement over his older Monsterverse design, I much prefer that, but I do really like this design. I dig the fact it just goes all out, and I love the pink colour. Yes, I prefer his old blue colour, but he rocks the pink so well. So yeah, that's my opinion of why Evolved Godzilla was a wasted potential of the new Empire. I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. I want to know if I'm alone in all this, or you guys share my same grievances with how this design was implemented in the film. But remember, keep things civil down there. Comments are supposed to be your friend and not your enemy. Bye now.